Hello, hi everyone, I'm Grandmaster Denes Boros, and today I want to talk a little bit about Super Grandmaster preparation, how it succeeds and how it fails. Now, of course, the main focus will be on this game between Nepomniachtchi and Alexeyenko, but I do want to mention other games which kind of pinpoints how much preparation counts these days, and especially in this candidates tournament. So let's get into it. So in this game, Nepomniachtchi went c4, but it's interesting to note that e4 has been played in the majority of the games because of MVL and Fabiano Caruana being a big proponent of this variation. And it actually had a good success, especially against MVL. MVL made a terrible mistake of walking straight up into Caruana's preparation in the poison pawn variation and e5, which interestingly enough was invented and been practiced by none other than the legend himself, Michal Tal, who played this in 1956 versus Flourish. Everybody thought that Tal is a superficial player, but it turns out in 2021 they still play this. In fact, they win crucial games. h6, bishop h4, d takes, f takes, knight d7, knight e4, queen takes a2. And now the big novelty that happened in the 2010 year between Rajabov and Anand put this whole Tal variation back onto the map and sort of got some new interest in the variation. Queen d5, queen e3, queen takes c5, just sidestepping those threats. c3, bishop c5. c3 is, by the way, not a novelty, but technically a novelty, as everybody used to play bishop e2 at this position. c3, bishop c5, here, here. Bishop c4, which is an outstanding idea by Caruana, and bishop d6. Now, we're not going to get deep into this game, but it's suffice to say that this was a crowning achievement by Fabiano, and that's why he actually could put pressure and eventually beat MVL. So this is a piece of preparation that did not work. Everybody knows that Caruana was facing a Najdorf expert in facing MVL, and MVL failed to come up with the proper defenses. So interestingly enough, when he faced off today versus Ding Liren, Ding did not venture into the most sharpest lines, played e5, knight f3, knight c6, played a system that has been considered very, very sound for decades. e5 castles, and that's the martial attack or martial variation. The game continued with a4, b4, d3, d6, a5, bishop e6, takes, knight d2, rook b8, c3, takes, rook b5, d4, takes, knight takes, bishop a3, queen c8, and black actually achieved a fairly reasonable position. Maybe under some slight pressure, but nothing too ridiculously daunting to handle for Ding Liren. So there are those two polar opposites, and it seemed to be that either you choose something that is very sound these days, or you know everything about the variation that you're playing. At the moment, the Najdorf is under some crisis because of Caruana's novelty. So there are many ways of trying to get a fighting game. In this instance, Nepomniachtchi chooses to avoid most of theory and go for the English variation. Knight f6, knight f3, e6. Actually, knight f3 hasn't been played yet, but after d5, knight f3. Transposing into a position which is a reversed Grunfeld, with white having an extra tempo, so it is quite dangerous as the Grunfeld is sharp, but with an extra tempo it gets a little bit of an extra boost. D takes c4, queen a4, knight d7, queen takes c4, a6, queen c2. A very clever move, and this is a high class one as well, because b5 will not come with an attack. So if you would castle, there is b5, queen c2, bishop b7, and then this bishop on g2 will get neutralized. Therefore, Nepo plays queen c2, c5, knight c3, and bishop e7 is inaccurate by Alexeyenko. He had to go queen c7, d4, and b6, which leads into a solid position for black, even though white is slightly bit better. Bishop e7, castle, castle, d4. Now, even though on the surface it might seem that black is doing well, but that Frenchified bishop on c8 isn't doing too shabby, and white is ready to put all his pieces on the open files, or the soon-to-be open D and C files. C takes, knight takes d4, queen c7, rook d1, rook d8, bishop e3. And black's biggest issue, that this bishop is so bad, and it'll take at least 1, 2, 3 moves till it gets out of the way. But white will not wait for that to happen. Knight b6, rook c1. Simple, logical, and also puts pressure on that queen on c7. e5, trying to ridiculously solve the problem, but it's actually just making the situation much worse, as now white has 2 aggressive snipers attacking down the long diagonals. Not to mention that there's 2 extra weaknesses on the middle of the board and on the king side. Knight c4, bishop g5, threatening bishop takes and occupying that all-important center square. Rook takes d1, knight takes d1. Very clever, pinning the queen and the knight. b3 is a threat, and suddenly this king on g8 is feeling the heat. Rook d8, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop e4. And even though this is a simple threat, it's very difficult to be dealt with, as g6 would run into queen takes f6, losing a piece. Knight e3 is not tricky enough, because white has this check, check, and take the queen with a check. Not to be confused with this idea, which would, and contrary, checkmate white. Queen a5, knight c3, again going for that all-important d5 square. And notice that even though Nepomniachtchi is clearly in the driver's seat, he makes sure that he owns the most important squares and have them under control. f8, knight d5. Sadly for Alexeyenko, nothing really works. If he take on d5, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, 2 pieces would be ample, even good compensation in general for black. But after queen c8, it's a check which loses the knight on c4. So king a7, queen takes c4, and white is just dominating. Knight d5, b5, queen takes h7, takes, bishop takes d5, queen d2. Another triad tactics, which is something you should do when you're in trouble. But sadly for Alexeyenko, it never really works. If queen d1 check, here, queen takes d5, it seems like you're winning the rook, but there is always this blockading move of rook e4. And when the queen is cut off, there's the simple f3 stabilizing that rook. So head to take back, e4, making sure that bishop is stable there. Now, the only thing that Nepo will need to do is go after the f-pawn. Check. Queen c8, attacking the c-pawn, going after the f-pawn. Queen b6 takes, queen c7, check, and resigns, because after queen d6, this queen is going to salsa all over to a6 and win the game. So this kind of shows how preparation kind of rules this whole event of the candidates, and the one with a deeper understanding or a more nuanced preparation is likely to win. So far, this does look like Nepomniachtchi is in the lead and is likely to be the champion. But there's still 4 more rounds left, and I'm curious whatever you guys think of this situation. You think Nepo is going to wrap it all up, or will MVL, Giri, or Caruana make a final comeback? Also, thank you for watching. Please leave a like if you liked it, and see you next time.